We are live here with our post-holiday hangouts today. We have the rankings guy, Mike Reiser. He's here to tell us all the work that went in to the rankings this past week. After even on vacation, he's still responding to messages and asking about results. Hi. We have also another special guest right here, future ranking lady, um, and Eric Miguel. He's back on the hangout tonight. He was at the Al Smith and Crown Point Maryville and been around a couple other places the past couple weeks, so he'll offer some great opinions. First thing we'll talk about, Mike, tell us a little bit about some of the big changes in the rankings, things that happened. I know we have only one new one new number one with Stevenson beating.
Jeremiah too.
Yeah, say that. Who was that again?
Reitz is number one.
Oh, Jer. Yep. Yes, Jer. Started the season like 5 or 6, and now he's back up to number one.
I think I underestimated him. I think I took that loss at Scholastic Duels a little too hard for him because I think that now that I'm seeing some of the other 106s, because I mean jumping 2 weights is always going to be hard, and I think now that we're seeing a couple of other 106s like Egley and Bailey really doing well, and obviously Jeremiah was the champ last year. I think he deserves that number one spot. I know he's been in and out of the lineup a little bit, but I mean he put a run together last year that was ridiculous, you know. So he's back at number one. A lot of the weights, I mean, 106 is like one of the weights that I think that's pretty good because a lot of those guys are getting to wrestle each other, so you're getting to see a lot of competition. Hope Anderson would be down more. I know that he's coming down. His dad's really good at getting us that information. He's been wrestling a lot of 13, but you'd hope that he'd get to wrestle some of these other guys that are 106. But a lot of the Evansville guys have been trading loss. I think Evansville is really deep at 106. Christian had a good couple weeks, so he moved up.
Yeah, I was impressed with Rooks at the Al Smith in the finals. I know Eric was probably also sitting right beside me. He gave Cummings a good match, and I mean, it was a little bit closer than actually the score kind of said right there. So, I mean, even Triana only lost 6-0. I mean, he's tough. I mean, he could wrestle with any of those top guys. So, I mean, those guys I've seen and had a couple good upsets a couple good matches at Team State. Noah Hunt went to overtime with Kavanaugh. Miranda lost to Hunt in overtime. And some other matches. Any other ones that you saw at 6 that kind of jumped out?
Yeah, and just kind of touch on a little bit of the Al Smith, like you were saying. I mean, not that they seeded it terrible. I don't want to get on like a seeding thing of saying like this or that, but I'd like to have seen that Graham Rooks and Tyler Triana. When I seen that Triana was seeded 5th, I thought that was crazy. I know he had missed some matches, and they're all freshmen, but it's not like freshmen 30 years ago where they're just learning how to wrestle the day they step in a wrestling room. These are guys that have been wrestling on the national level, that's been wrestling a ton of stuff. And to say that, those dudes, if you would have sat them down, I'm sure they would have said Triana was a top 3 guy. Maybe, Rooks and him would have been a better match. So, Mills winning Connorsville. I know that's Nick's guy. I always like to give Nick a little bit of a hard time when he's on here. Just kind of push his guys. But, I think he's really showing that he's at that level where I think a lot of people kind of, criticized that ranking early on, said that he was small, that he wasn't going to do as well. But he definitely, winning Connorsville, having the close matches with Miranda, I think that he's right in that mix too. We moved Mason Coffer back in. He didn't wrestle Connorsville, but they said he's going to be back from that shoulder. In the bottom's just a lot of guys that kind of trade losses. Ian Dombrowski lost to Mascali from Indian Creek, and then came back and beat him. So we kept him in, but that puts the Indian Creek kid, on our radar now. I didn't know if he was going to be a Bloomington South kid or Indian Creek kid. It was good to get him in there.
Yeah, and then Kavanaugh has probably half his matches are to rankable kids. He has I think the longest list of notable wins and losses.
And I think that's awesome. Like when you're going out and getting those matches, I like that.
Yeah, I know if you guys probably noticed it on there, we have probably 600 or even more individual results with the new website. It's a lot easier to throw in those results, um, and it's one of those things that yeah, we have like 5 or 600 in there. So kids are
Yeah.
get we got lots of results. I mean, if you don't have a result, you haven't wrestled anybody. I mean, I know there's just a few, and I was looking through those guys the other day, trying to, by missing any of their results, so that a few of them have some key wins and losses. But and I know we still have a few more to get in from Team State. But anything you saw at 106, Eric, that jumped out at you?
We're talking a little bit about that Al Smith final. I think it was 7-3 Cummings. Tried to dive over once on that cradle, got reversed, and then similar situation happened again. Had to give up an escape. I kind of thought that Cummings controlled that one. He definitely controlled the semifinal against Triana. It seems like he's sort of separating himself from that group. I agree with Mike. Rooks and Triana would have been nice to see. I think they've wrestled before as kids. Just going back to that seeding meeting, I'm not sure how they wound up with him 5th out of there, but I've been pushing for you guys, Mike and Joe, to get in there and run some of these seeding meetings. I know Harvest Classic let Mike come in and sit down, and I would encourage as many tournaments as possible to use Mike and IndianaMat as a resource. I mean, they do this, hours and hours and hours of pouring through results. They'd be good guys to call up and say, hey, can you come in and moderate my seating meeting? I think that Al Smith could have used that. But other than that, Cummings, I think separating himself from the group for sure. Rook's really tall, looks really big for the weight class. He was probably the biggest 106 I've seen all year. So
Yeah, we do see Wyatt Miller without a significant win or loss. He'll be wrestling Kavanaugh most likely Saturday, so that should be good. He's the one we've known that he's going to be pretty good. He has a brother that's decent, and we just don't know. It's hard to gauge without seeing semi-state, at least semi-state level kids, and he hasn't seen anyone. He's just ran through everybody, so should be a good one at New Haven this weekend.
We know he'll be in shape, right?
Yes, hopefully. But we'll move on. 113. Not much change at the top. Everyone's been winning, other than a couple matches here and there. Any opinions on that? Any things that you saw at any of the tournaments that you saw that were significant?
I've got to see Michael De La Pena, a couple times now, and he's got to be one of the most improved kids in the state. Last year ticket round guy. This year looks like a guy who could come away with a medal, top 8, and made the finals at the Al Smith. Beat John Moran soundly last night from Crown Point, like 6-1, 6-2. That was a guy that he split with last year. So I know that he's put in a lot of time, and it's showing. Michael De La Pena is the lower ranked guy that I think could be there at the end on the second day at state. But Hildebrandt beat him 3-0. Hildebrandt also beat Cody Crary 3-0. Munster. That was his probably second closest match of that tournament. I thought that Hildebrandt was he was looking good. I mean, he soundly beat both those guys. So definitely separate himself from the rest of that group.
I like the Kyle Lugs, I don't know how you say it, from Mater Dei and Alec White split. They wrestled in the finals of the Mater Dei and then turn around and wrestle at Team State and split. Man, the Mater Dei kids just go, ball of energy. Like, he's just out there moving, like, just constantly going forward, getting good scrambles. I think he's going to give a lot of guys a lot of trouble, Skaggs came down, had some good matches. He was at 120. We weren't sure if he was going to be 20 or 13, so now he's down. I think this is just a good weight. Dustin Miller came down. Dustin Miller, I thought, was a big 6 last year. from Jeff, and then Lafayette Jeff. And now he's back at 13, so I'm sure he's pretty big. I know him and De La Pena were pretty close last year. Dillbeck, the Gibson Southern kid, beat Stevenson at Mooresville. Mooresville. And he's in there now, so this is just a good weight. And even the guys that are like right on the outside, Nick Weaver and those guys are really good.
Yeah. One thing I'm seeing even just when we're talking about these, it's how the holiday tournaments and even Team State, they brought like North and South and everyone together. And I mean, you have a Yorktown versus Gibson Southern match, which it kind of helps you that you can see, okay, he beat him, but he's also, compare him versus a semi-state kid, and other kids that get in, well, so-and-so beat, Dillback or whatever. You can tell kind of get a lot better gauge on a lot of these kids right now.
Yeah, how exciting could this be? I mean, obviously, Peppel and Conrath, are kind of distancing themselves. I think Hildebrandt's right in there, but this could be like an awesome semifinal. I mean, you got two guys returning medals at 5 or 6 and 7. Austin Holmes, a returning semifinalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been up at 20. I know he's been at 13. He's been down. This is just a way where I think a lot of good things can happen. I'm excited for this way. You get two really good guys in Peppel and Conrath at the top, and I mean that's an exciting match.
Yeah, Peppel had a close match at the Al Smith with Ellis from Zionsville, 4-0, which is kind of surprising. I know how Peppel wrestles. I've coached him and seen him wrestle. I mean, that could have been a 4-0. That was like a tech fall type match. He could have got first takedown, got a reversal, rode him for 5-6 minutes. So,
and Ellis is a kid that's wrestled a ton of good guys too. His results, I'm sure, if we don't have him in all the way, but he's wrestled a ton of really, really good kids.
Mm-hmm. So moving up, 120, we already hit on that a little bit. Right, Jer is up number 1. Surrey Miller, he's also one that hasn't had too many results. He beat Eddie Lorraine 4-2, which is an interesting result. I mean, trying to figure out where Lorraine's kind of see where he's at. Bailey, Elliott, Egley, Kyle Hatch. I mean, Brandon Black, who has a state medal, he's outside the top 8 right now. Or even Hunter Langlow, who has a state medal. I mean, you have two guys with state medals that are right now. If that's how it figures out, there's two guys with state medals that aren't placing. So, good weight at Al Smith. I don't think it was very. We had Hatch won it pretty easily. It wasn't too deep of a weight class.
We still had some good people. You still Becker was in there.
Yeah.
Hatch is tough, man. That guy's scrappy.
Yeah, he's big too. I noticed he was a real good sized 20-pounder. I mean, just like you said, like all these guys that I was naming, all the guys that came up to 20 were all they all were 106s last year, it seems. I mean, Wright, Bailey, Hatch, Langlow, all those guys were all, 106 pounders, and they grew an extra went up even a weight class. One thing I noticed that at Modern Day, Conrath bumped up, wrestled Egley and beat Egley 4-2. They've wrestled about 6,000 times, I'm sure, in their careers, and it's probably about 3,000 to 3,000 as far as wins. They're pretty close, but that was a good win for Conrath.
And I was getting it a little bit, and obviously being a region guy, they were giving me a little bit about Jeremiah not being one. Like, how do you not rank a champ? And like I said, it was kind of that thing where he lost to Austin Holmes at Scholastic Duels, and I was like, well, Austin Holmes is a semifinalist. We'll kind of lay it out like that. And man, just the way that like some of the guys he's wrestled, like Egley and Cornelius Elliott, was a really good match. I know a lot of people were upset with the officiating, but I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was just a really good match. And then you're also going to add Brock Huckins back in, who's had a phenomenal summer. So definitely a good weight. Caleb Babcock's been wrestling out of his mind. He's beat Austin Holmes. He's beat
Langlow
a couple times. Zach McCoy he's beat. So
yeah, that's he's had a pretty good year so far. So he's been to state too. He didn't go last year. But I mean, look at all these guys. All but 4 have state experience, and then you're going to throw in. Actually, it's going to be down to 3 because someone's getting dropped out when Hudkins comes back in, and he's going to be.
That's not even counting guys that are on the outside looking in who have state experience, like a John Becker, like Hunter Fox, who was a state qualifier at 106. You know, just a ton of tough guys in that weight. But I think that's what happens kind of, you know, not that guys are ducking Chad Red to go to 120 and trying to get to Jeremiah, who's the champ. But, I mean, you're kind of seeing a lot of guys that are not at 13, maybe couldn't make 13, and a lot of guys that are not going to go to 26.
Yep. Anyway, we'll move up to 26. Red has been just killing people.
Number 1 ranked guy in the country.
Not much. Yep, he just got in 2 rankings versus 1. We're still holding out for IndianaMat that they need to join the parties. 2 out of 3, so that's good. That's pretty good. Past Red, it looks a lot like 120 with a lot of guys that are real good. It's just a matter of, you know, who's going to come to wrestle that day. A lot of guys trading losses, it looks like. I mean, really, at Al Smith, he had a good match between Curry and Malloy.
Malloy, that was one of the most impressive performances of the whole Al Smith final. Malloy put it on him good. It was 9-2, almost picked up the major. They said Crary was sick. Maybe, yeah. I don't think he gets him. You know, even on the best day, that was completely one-sided. But you know, I think Jason will be at the end regardless. But that just seemed like a bad matchup. Malloy was a lot bigger, stronger, kind of blew through him on some blast doubles. You know, but that was an impressive performance for sure. He's definitely going to be there in the top 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, I saw Alex Johnson had a tech fall over Joel McGee, which that was pretty impressive, and then he beat Non-Ook. Also, he had a pretty good day at Team State, and I think he beat somebody else. I can't remember who else offhand, but he kind of looked like he's a returning state medalist and definitely has a couple big moves that can be a game changer. So he's one that you got to watch out for.
We have Ferguson right here. I don't really know what's going on with Ferguson. I know he's been banged up. I like him at 2 here, but I mean he might be at 120 also. Who knows?
Is he gonna join the fun? Might as well.
I like her. I think. I mean, obviously he lost that one, but that's probably the worst loss of his career. So I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he looks sick and some of the stuff I've seen. It dropped him down. I don't think that's not something that I'm like, oh man, him and Gage will wrestle at regionals, hopefully semi-state. So I think that's a matchup where those guys will see. I mean, obviously 1 is Red. I don't know. I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying that I think he's untouchable. He's about almost as untouchable as I'm going to pick a guy to be in the state. He's just wrestling that well. But I think a lot of those guys are wrestling to be in the finals. I think a lot of those guys can do well.
Yeah. He's going to have a tough match in the finals. I don't know no matter who comes out of there, because they're going to go after him with everything they have, and they have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Kind of like how Gregowski took it to him last year. Gregowski had a great match with him, and, was, just a hair away from getting that first takedown, which could have changed the game real quick. He knows it, and everyone else. He's going to get everyone's best shot, whether he likes it or not. That's the type of thing when you're number 1, especially someone like that. Everyone's going to go after you with their best stuff. So
a lot of Newcastle semi-state guys. So they're going to have 4 regional champs, and one of those guys will have a really bad draw.
Yes, very bad. Move up to 132. We had a 2 versus 3 last week. Connor Knapp versus Brayton Lee. Lee won 5-3. 2 takedowns, and then an escape, I believe, is how he scored, and I think Knapp got a reversal and an escape. Plus, I think that's how the scoring was. So close match. On their feet, it wasn't. On the mat, I mean, there's Knapp's real good on the mat. Lee's real good on his feet. So it's kind of a contrasting match when they got to the mat. Matt McKinney's hanging in there at 4. He had a good Al Smith. He beat Clarence Johnson. I'll let you go from there. Any big changes and things you saw?
I think some of the later results we kind of we switched it up a little bit. I said Egoff lost at Team State, so that was something I looked at afterwards. Man, Nick Lee just looks so good, and I don't think that's a smack at Matt McKinney. They wrestled, and it was Nick Lee just dominated that match. I think McKinney can wrestle him better if he wrestles more to his pace. But man, if you let Nick Lee really just get rolling, and he'll blow the doors off you. Like if you let him dictate the match, he's going to, he's really gonna put it on some guys.
Yeah.
So
Napier
pretty far. Like you can't drop McKinney so far because he beat Clarence Johnson in the finals. Al Spitz. Clarence, a returning medalist. Eldred's still in there. Eldred took a loss to Timmerman wrestling up, but he also lost to Nick Lee pretty good. Nick Lee's really good. I think that's an understatement. Brayton Lee's really good too. For all the guys that were kind of sending me messages early on saying like, how can you rank a freshman ahead of guys that got medals? He's pretty tough.
Yeah, he. I just know Nick Lee beat Napier 28-13. 13 takedowns and 1 reversal in one match. That's a that's a whooping on a guy that's probably on the edge of being ranked. Napier,
I don't even know if he's in the lineup.
On the outside.
Perry Meridian and Jordan Napier keep me on my toes, so it's hard to rank either one of them. If I can rank both of them at the same spot, that'd be great.
Just need to change their profiles. Napier/Rust.
Napier got a huge win for those guys against Celis for Perry Meridian over Penn. Split them up, got a fall. I mean, that's the match,
Yes, it was. That was a good match. It was tied. Came down to Criterion. It was a tech fall by James. That was the reason they won. Anything you saw, Eric, at 32, other than Nick Lee, the Lees and the Lees up top?
I kind of agree with you guys. I think this is similar to 126. Guys are wrestling for second place here. Brayton Lee's really good. Probably the best left-handed fireman's outside dump that I've seen, especially a young kid like that. Last night I saw Clarence Johnson and Zach Donaldson. I think that's number 5 and number 10. Clarence with a couple takedowns got out to a lead. It was like 5-1 in the third period, and then he got like a cross knee pick from front headlock, put him right to his back, cradled him up and pinned him. So that was a big win for Maryville. That started the duel. Maryville jumped out to a 6-0 lead. Especially in a swing match like that, I thought that was going to propel Maryville, but Crown Point turned it around with 8 wins, out of 14. So that was the really only thing else I saw. I saw Matt McKinney. He controlled the match against Clarence. It was what was it, 2-0, 2-1, something like that. Not a ton of action, just kind of rode him. I think scored 1 reversal. Not too much action in that one though, but yeah, I agree. Nick Lee and then versus the field wrestling for second. So
yeah, it's a pretty deep field though at that weight. I think. I mean, you have Connor Knapp, who is he only has a handful of losses on his career. Brayton Lee's only going to have a handful of losses on his career. McKinney's a two-time qualifier, and he qualified up a weight last year. So. Eldred's a Fargo All-American. I mean, you just look at these guys, and they're when you say these guys, if you don't have a Nick Lee in the weight, this is probably one of our favorite weights to watch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, without a doubt.
for sure.
Move on up to 38. James and Cash. Cash ran through D.L. Smith. Joe Lee got bumped up a little bit after Modern Day and the team states. Tell us a little bit. I mean, he was very much like Brayton Lee, where you had him pretty high, but not quite high enough. Had to win. You have to win some matches, and he beat Timmerman, Castleberry, beat Timmerman twice in a week. He was a tough
Second one was
wrestler.
good. 14-11.
Yeah, the football score, late field goal.
This is a way to kind of caught a little bit of slack on too, a little bit of flack. I was catching it. The guys are giving me a little bit of a hard time, but it's all right. We had Quinn Harris up, returning state guy, semi-state runner-up, hadn't lost. I think people were saying he was overrated. You can't rank on opinion. Like, you're not gonna rank. Well, this is my buddy. This is this. The guy was a state qualifier. He was the highest state guy on the list that hadn't lost yet. So, just to clarify that, I know that guys are trying to take me to school on that. I don't think Joe is Nick. I mean, Brandon James kind of took it to him a little bit. He got that first takedown. I was like, man, maybe I was wrong. Maybe Joe Lee is Nick Lee second, and then Brandon kind of controlled the match after that. I mean, Brandon's really good. I think this is a weight that is wide open. I didn't see Cash pinning Fattora. I thought that was gonna be a lot closer. I've been totally impressed with Fattora every time I've seen him. I thought that he looked great at the Nick. I thought he looked great at the Harvest. I was excited to see that match, and then Tommy Cash just went out there and kind of, I don't want to say big brothered him, but definitely took it to him. Pinned him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I hear, Zach Fattora is just freak strength, especially for how old he is. He's a freshman. Everyone that wrestled him says that's the strongest guy they've wrestled. Tommy Cash made it look like he was the strongest guy that Zach Fattora ever wrestled. Zach tried to lift him, lift in return, kind of pulled him on top of, kind of pulled Tommy on top of himself, and just couldn't recover. Ended up, kind of choking him over and pinning him. But Tommy Cash looked really, really strong, especially given how strong that everyone says Zach Fattora is. So that was pretty impressive. I don't know if they wrestle again, it'll be a fall, but I think there's a wide gap there between 1 and 5 or 2 and 5.
We still got Keegan Stanford in there.
Yeah, he's number 8. You have some other guys throughout. I mean, Harris he had a couple losses this last week that kind of dropped him, but I mean, like you said, that wasn't a bad ranking by any means. I mean, you got to wrestle matches. That's why we have matches, and that's why rankings change every week. And why kids go up and down, based on results. So, past the top 3 or 4, I mean, it's got a lot of solid guys that have beaten each other or wrestled a lot of the top guys. So, that's pretty good. I mean, the top 4 or 5 in that weight are pretty tough, and then
this way started to look like 32 last year, where I had an idea, and a lot of guys were trading losses, and then everyone that made it to state was knowing that I had ranked. That's kind of the feel that I have going in right now this way. Definitely a lot of guys that have that are real similar in their wins and losses, and they're trading losses, and then it'll be like 4 dudes I never heard of. Not that I never heard of them, but that I didn't have ranks, and everyone will be asking me what happened.
Is Eric doing some dishes or what?
Yeah, we're doing dishes. Keep it.
My dog's going nuts. Had to give him a bone.
Up to 45. Top 4 look like they've been staying the same. You have Kuvach, Lawrence, McCormick. It looks like McCormick's been about 16 different weights. I think he's been about 5 or 6 weights this year. Probably going to settle in at 45, it looks like, hopefully. Any big matches that you saw this week? Kuvach beat Pruitt 2-0, got a takedown, I believe. or a reversal. I mean, it was Pruitt wasn't even close to being, in the, scoring, but and Kuvac did his. I mean, he's a hard to score on, so he gets his 2 points, he can usually win.
Yeah,
So,
it was classic. It was classic Jacob Kovac. 4 minutes of ride time plus and one takedown. That's all it takes. He's so hard to score on. He wrestled Dalen Sherg last night. I think Sherg's ranked 14 or 15 or something. Kovac came out there and put on a takedown clinic. 4 takedowns in like a minute. The last one, really sweet foot sweep right to the back, picked up the fall. I'm looking forward to that rematch between Kovac and Bam. I think any one of those 4 guys up at the top could probably win this thing. But I think we'll get to see Bam and Kovac regional, semi-state. So those will be really fun. Plus DAC. I mean, we might see that Mike, 4 or 5 more times.
Yeah. DAC, regional, semi-state, maybe state. Bam's just a guy that I think once he gets rolling, it's hard to stop him because he's such a guy that wants to wrestle with confidence, you know?
definitely, I agree. After seeing him at the Scholastic Duels, he was up a weight, and he got a little confidence, and then if you take it away, it gets ugly. But definitely, he gets on a roll, and if he believe, I mean, much like any 16, 17-year-old kid, that you give him confidence, and it's probably more deadly than teaching him a
Man,
great
he's
double leg.
just athletically and talent-wise, that kid's ridiculous. And when he believes in himself, I think it's game over. You know, and him and Kovac, they're like the perfect like blend of like what the other one doesn't want. Like Kovac is like all defense, can stop him, and Bam's all offense, and it just makes really good matches. Kale McCormick's been wrestling out of his mind. His results are ridiculous, also.
Yeah, he's one that he hasn't seen, like Kuvac and Lawrence, and he's seen quite a lot of it. Well, there's probably a lot of the guys like 12 to 16, or guys are right on the cusp of being ranked, and he's dominated them. So it's one of those things that you gotta always look at. I mean, plus he's bumped up and bumped down. He's beaten 2 guys that are ranked at 150, 3 guys that are ranked at 52, maybe 4. I don't know. But he's been all over, and he's seeking out the tough matches, as tough as he can get. So
Blake Jordan at 4, and this is kind of the parity of the weight. So Blake Jordan majors Noah Warren, who's a really good freshman, has a win over Trent Pruitt, and has a loss to Keaton Fainter at Evansville. So I think he's 16. So you're talking 4 and 16 are kind of trading losses in there.
yeah,
Schnell beat Heron, and then McCormick beat Schnell. Vaughn drops 1 to Al Smith, and then comes back and beats him. So I like the weight. It's got a lot of parity. This is a weight I think you could throw a dart, and whoever has a good tournament could win this weight. I like it.
yeah. Who did and Dahl beat somebody last night, didn't he? He beat somebody. I know I just saw someone post the result last night that he beat someone that was pretty solid.
And Dahl's been up at like 60 at one point.
Yeah.
That's just one of those things that I really like the weight. The bottom's a little more mixed. Austin Baines into the final of Connorsville. I think this is a really good, just top to bottom weight. I think there's about 5 guys after 16 that could probably be ranked in there too.
Yeah, definitely. 52, Forte, and then the field. Another one of those. He got a little banged up first day at Al Smith, and he taped it up and wrestled on one leg for his last 2 matches, which was, he didn't wrestle any, he wrestled good kids, and did what he needed to do. He got only second four-timer at the Al Smith, which is pretty impressive. Definitely something that it's worth taping that up and wrestling through it. After that, guys, you have some undefeated guys, some guys that they've only taken a couple losses, and then this is a weight that 2 through 14 you could probably rank 16 different ways.
Yeah, it's kind of tough towards the bottom. I mean, obviously Forte up top. Your guy Garmin has been wrestling well. Swank dropped the match to Christensen at the Harvest. Comes back in the semis, beats him. Christensen drops 2 more. So Christensen's a really good guy. Beat Kristen, and it's hard to kind of gauge that. It's hard to gauge. Maybe Christensen had a bad day. He takes 2 losses, and then where do those guys fall in? Brett Johnson looked really good at Team State, really aggressive. I thought he looked awesome. Van Camp's been good. Elijah Dunn was a guy that jumped from 0 to 6. He beat Berg Van Horn 2-1. Caden Whitaker, those dudes at Martinsville are lifting some weights because those dudes are thick. That dude's good. Connor Muth's only loss is going to be Jared Swank in overtime. So Harrison, got a guy in there really good. I think he's, a guy that people are going to sleep on because I don't always feel like that Logansport Regional is really tough, but he's really good.
Yeah, there's some good parity in that weight. Even Peyton Sturgill from Peru, he finished 3rd. He's just pinning people that second day, and pinning good kids. So that's definitely one of those guys that you gotta keep your eye out on for. Peru doesn't get much. They're a little bit down right now, but they still have some good kids. So it's one of those things you gotta still keep your eye on. Moving up to 160, Hughes and Kuntz, pretty solid 1-2, and then Scherg. Hughes and Scherg this weekend, is that correct?
Yeah, we're gonna get to see that one Saturday over at Portage. There's a quad, Portage, Crown Point, Lowell, and Rensselaer. So Scherg and Hughes there. I see Hughes win that one. Scherg comes out, tries to muscle guys around, double unders, jack them up, body locks, that type of stuff. I don't think that he's going to be able to come out there and do that to Drew. I see Drew probably scoring on the feet, and then he's a 1 takedown guy. I mean, when he scores 1 takedown, it's hard to beat him just because it's impossible to get away. So I think that match is gonna fall somewhere in the 3-0, 5-0 range unless Drew can turn him and pin him with the legs, which is not out of the question either. But I'm not sure that Scherg's going to be able to come out there and double unders and muscle Drew around like that.
Yeah.
I don't think Drew's wrestling this weekend. I think he's a little banged up. That's what I had heard. So I don't know if that's going to happen.
Hopefully it does. But if not, I mean, you're going to see that one 4 times. Also, you're going to see that sectional, regional, semi-state, and then if Kuntz could get in there at least 3 times, if not a 4th. So I think that's one that if it doesn't happen this weekend, won't have to wait long.
Yep.
Yeah, I like Gabe Kuntz in that weight. I think he's good. Colton Gonzalez coming down, I think throws that weight and kind of mixing it up. Colton Gonzalez is really good. Isaac Picker is actually moving to 52. Someone sent me a message, said that he's not going to be at 60. He's going to be a 52-pounder. So that kind of throws 52 in a little bit of a mix.
He could win 52. I think Tommy Forte looked really banged up. Hopefully he recovers. But Isaiah Kemper's a goer, man, and I wouldn't count him out of winning that weight.
If he can keep the weight under control, I know he's pretty big. So I mean, if he can keep the weight, cut the weight correctly, he could definitely be right in that mix. Gonzalez beat Weimer at Connorsville. Hughes beat Prentice at the Al Smith. And Connorsville actually was pretty solid. You had Brigham finished 3rd. Some other guys that were pretty solid. Pretty good weights at all the tournaments. I mean, Helm won Evansville, and Mooresville had obviously Kuntz and Kemper. So some good matches between the top guys this week. That it's good to solidify, make sure the rankings are right, but also see those guys wrestle each other to see where they exactly kind of fall in. So
Denzel Prentice might be one of those guys like Bam. If you watch the Milner match, man, he was really like pushing some stuff. And Milner beat him. Milner has some other tough losses, but Prentice was like hitting super ducks, and it just looked like he wasn't real sure of his offense. I think that if he can kind of buy into like how good he can be or how good he is, he might make a run. That's a guy that you could sleep on and get a medal. That dude's got some really good takedown. He's really good on his feet.
yep, I agree.
That match with Baumgartner at the Al Smith, that was a controversial one. I know Joe and I were sitting there watching that one. I think Baumgartner should have had a takedown. I think he had Prentice's hand down on the mat with weight on it, and they didn't give it to him. I know Little Vito was in the corner going crazy, but I think that Baumgartner should have been in the finals there, but Prentice had a good tournament. But that was one of the best matches of the Al Smith. That semi between Baumgartner and Prentice came right down to the wire, and controversial call.
And then like a Tristan Goring goes back and beats Baumgartner after that. I think it ended up being an injury default, but I think he was up in the score. And that's another kid that just pretty good on his feet, goer, sophomore. I think that kid's not bad. I know he has a loss to like Norm Heslap from St. Joe's, and he has 2 losses to Drew. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, pretty good parity in that whole. I mean, the whole weight right there. I mean, a lot of good, solid kids that. I mean, it's probably one of the weights, past the top 2 or 3 that, I mean, even those guys can't sleep on any guys, 3 weight. So.
How about that Crown Point Regional 1, 3, and 8 all there? Hughes, Sherg, and Dodson there. I mean, one of those guys is gonna give somebody a tough take around match. That's gonna be a bad draw.
Yeah, you could have 3 undefeated guys at that regional. Because if Drew and Darden don't wrestle this weekend, you're talking they're both going to be undefeated. Dodson's undefeated.
Yeah.
Parker Fritz at Maryville's still going to be undefeated from West Central.
Yeah,
Billy Decker, who's unranked, is undefeated. Newcastle.
Fritz could draw one of those 2 guys in the ticket round. I mean, it could be a 1-loss guy versus an undefeated guy, right, in the ticket round. That's I mean, Fritz wins his regional. He has a 2/3 chance of drawing. I mean, he has 1 out of 3 chance of getting a good draw. So he's either drawing Sherg, Hughes, or he has a chance of getting 2 of those guys. So that's never an easy way to go. So.
Parker Fritz is like a bigger kid too. Like that'd be a good match with him and Darden Sherg. I like to see those guys. They're both pretty physical guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, West Central, obviously, they're a small school. They're probably not seeing a ton of good matches. But that dude was pretty physical last year at semi-state. And then you're going to have that South Bend region, that Rochester regional with Heslap, Prentice, Goring. That's going to be a solid weight at Maryville. Some guys are going to have their feelings hurt.
Yeah, some regional champs going home there, guaranteed.
Yep. Nice. 170, Harvey versus Stevenson. Rematch at Team State. Stevenson won 3-2, so they're even, and they probably won't see each other again until State. Even if they do, Leidy's been kind of lighting it up. Mammalati.
This weekend, right? You got Stevenson, Leidy, and Dylan Jackson.
Yes. That'll be a good weekend. So good to see. Leidy's the only one that beat Stevenson last year. Stevenson had 1 loss, so that's.
Leidy wins, I'm gonna move to 1. Just so everyone knows, if Leidy wins this weekend, he'll be the number 1 ranked wrestler.
Nice.
Leidy's my pick. He hasn't put it together at the right time yet, but I've seen that dude in the off season. Man, he could put together an ISWA tournament. Hopefully, he finishes out in February, but. He's my pick. We saw Mammalenti and Sopko part 2 at the Al Smith. Sopko won the first one 3-1. Mammalenti came out and pinned him this time. Put a wrist on his back, kind of hop sides and just torqued him over. It was tight, and Yeah, so he picked up the fall there. I think they traded spots. Mamalenti's a guy who won the semi-state last year. Nobody's even really talking about him, to win this title. It's kind of been Stevenson, Harvey, but I don't think that he's that far off from either of those guys.
I
So
was
I think this is
surprised.
another really good win.
I was surprised to see him jump up and drop that one to Tanti at Team State. I thought, maybe, but Tante just came out and just threw caution to the wind, went really at him, and I think he kind of overwhelmed him. So I was really surprised on that.
Yeah. The Mamalati looked good. I mean, even with that loss, he looked good. Sopko, he just manhandled him, horsed him over, bulldog, kindergarten killer, whatever you want to call it. And Sopko just sat there like, he didn't know it hit him. Even with that, he had a pretty good. He bumped up and wrestled Tante, which that's not a bad loss by any means. Especially a guy that's been wrestled 95. So past that, even looking at Cameron Jones, who has a win, he has some good wins. Caden Luganbill's looking pretty solid. He's funky, and he'll give any of those guys fits just because that he's just a weird wrestler to wrestle. So, any other comments on some guys down?
Cameron Knuckles, we had him ranked at 82. Wrestled 70 at Connorsville. Had an awesome tournament. Beat a Ohio kid that beat Nathan Walton. So that's kind of messed up. I guess I messed that ranking up, but definitely I think he's really good too. Hunter Mote's still undefeated.
Any word out of Delphi if he's going to drop down to 160? I know some people have been talking about that. I think he should stay right where he's at. 160, like we talked about, going to be crazy.
No, I think he's staying at 170. They one of the guys from Logansport that sends a lot of stuff in said they talked to him. He's going to stay 170.
There you
Nice.
go.
Yeah. Should be a good weight. Definitely one that we've been talking about for a while, but it could be pretty tough. You have a returning third place finisher. He's ninth. That tells you how tough the weight is. So moving on to 182, Osborne, Meyer, and Howard, Anderson. Henderson hasn't been in the lineup for probably close to a month now, it seems. Andrew Davison, the Davison-Osborne match was ridiculous.
Oh, man. Yeah, my favorite match of the season so far. I think that was a great one.
Yeah, those two got after it. That was the best part about it. They both went after it. Davison, I don't want to say gassed because he wasn't gassed, but he just couldn't keep that pace for the whole 6 minutes. If he keeps that pace for 6 minutes, he beats him, and he probably hasn't had a match like that for quite a while. So, he's only a sophomore taking the returning runner-up right down to the wire. So that's one that he can definitely make a he's definitely a contender. And even if you remember right, after you got that first takedown, you got called for fleeing the mat.
Yeah.
And he tried to return the guy, kind of shady. I'll say that much. Wasn't a good call, and pretty much, that kind of neglects his takedown that he just got. So he ended up cutting Osborne anyway. So you got to take that, you got nothing out of it really.
Yeah, it was 2-2. It was 2-2 right off the bat, and then later on in that match, he's got the lead, I think, by 2 or 3. And his headgear slides up over his mouth, and I'm waiting for the ref to stop that, and they let him keep wrestling. He went up to adjust it, and he gives up another takedown there. So I thought that officiating of that match, like you said, that fleeing the mat call was questionable, and then you would have hoped that ref would have stopped it when his headgear slipped up over his mouth, but that ended up costing him a takedown too. I can't wait for part 2 of that one. Hopefully we see that one, Maryville semi-state finals, and then I want to see part 3 under the lights. That was a great match. Those dudes got after it. Like Joe said, 4.5 minutes was probably Davidson's, and then that last minute and a half or so was all Osborne. And but they were getting after it. Lots of good scrambles, attack, reattack. It was good stuff. Andrew Davidson in 2 years is going to be that dude is going to be a top 10 national guy. He's that good.
Yeah, his hips Osborne got him up 2 or 3 times, deep shots, and his hips just, as soon as he sprawled, Osborne was just scrambling for a stalemate or getting out of bounds, or one of those type of things that he knew he wasn't gonna finish those shots, and I mean that's and Davison's taken really big leap from from he's only a sophomore, so it's hard to say, but he took a real big leap from last year and into this year, and that's going to be an interesting weight, especially you got a good mixture of sophomores, a couple of sophomores, and a couple seniors and freshmen in there. So definitely one. Let Mike comment on some of the other guys that he's seeing results for.
I'm excited to see Mason Paris. He's just been dominating guys, good guys. Any guy that they're around that weight, he's been dominating. For a freshman, he's just manhandling guys. So I'm excited to see him.
Yeah. Connor James too. He ran through the Spartan Classic pretty easily.
I had a tough one Morales at the end, but I mean John Morales is a returning medalist, and then you got a handful of guys ahead of him.
Yeah, definitely.
My sleeper at this weight is David Eli. He had a good Al Smith. Gabe Davidson a good match in the semis. That's a guy who's only a sophomore coming out of the Fort Wayne semi-state. Going to run into Howard Anderson probably, but I think that he's a dude that could be wrestling state quarterfinals type of guy. He was good. He's ranked 15th now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him a lot higher by the end of the year.
Yeah, I was talking to a coach. I'll let him remain nameless, but I asked him, I was like, there's some good upper weights, this year, especially like Walton and Paris. And I was like, I haven't seen Paris. If he walked by me right now, I wouldn't know who he is. I go, how good is he? Are we overranking him? Are we underranking him? And he's like, no, he's good. He's very much a Nick Lee type, where he's just in your face, gonna wear you out type guy. So I mean,
middle school Super
they don't
30.
wrestle
This guy's picked last year at the end of the year for top freshman.
You're right, that pony all year long, aren't you? Probably next 4 years, right?
I'm gonna say it all year long. I'll say it for 5 years.
You might want to make it your little thing on the bottom. I'm writing the Mason Paris pony.
That's another way where I really like. I like Spencer McCool. They said he dominated the Northmont Super Duel. They said I talked to Vorda, and he said that dude was hands far and away the best guy, the most impressive guy. So I feel like maybe I'm underappreciating him at 11. I haven't seen him. So, but man, 8 and up. You got a medalist at 8. Clamola was a folk style state title or a Greco state title away from a triple crown this summer. He's wrestled tight with Osborne. Kyle Schaefer's really good. He's a sophomore. Had a good freshman year. So Ricky Samuels beat David Eli. This is a really good weight also.
Yeah, I agree. Just even top to bottom. I mean, you have your top guys, but I mean, you have a guy like Tante, who obviously is well coached. He's at 4. Connor James has won about everything, but done anything. I mean, he's one that's always in the mix, and if he's feeling it, he's one that can. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he can make a run. I mean, he could win a title, and no one's gonna be like, oh wow, that's a surprise.
We have 2 returning state qualifiers at 182 pounds that are unranked at that weight. Daniel Wright from Harrison, who lost to Mason Chow, who's unranked. He only has 2 losses. And Tristan Anglin from Columbia City, also unranked, who has a couple of losses, but still, it's kind of depth of that weight class.
Yeah. Moving up to 95. Had some shakeups a little bit in there. We got some, ranked guys wrestling, which is always, I mean, just much like the other weights. This one, it was one of those that you have a lot of older guys, a lot of new guys come in out of the blue, maybe JV guys that beat some state qualifiers. Nothing. But you have some good matches in there. Tell us, I mean, obviously, Ripel pins Randy Scott in a minute and a half.
Yeah, I had to get the breakdown on it because when you see that, it really shocks you because both guys are All-Americans, and they said that Blake just caught him in the cradle. It was a takedown, a reversal, cradled him up, pin. Uh, we moved Hinkle. We switched those guys, but I don't think 2 and 3 really matter there. Both those guys are really good. Hinkle's had some really good matches with Rypel. You know, and this is going to be an honest thing. For about as close to, I say, a heart rank, Nick Fowler with Calumet. I'm a Calumet guy. He beat Matt Hedrick. We moved him up to 6. I thought maybe I ranked him a little high, and then he goes out and wins Al Smith in what are, some people feel like is one of the tougher weight classes, just depth-wise. So I was really happy to see that. He moved to 4 just because some guys lost. Jake Havens, only loss is when – or now he has 2 losses now, but still he's really good. Your guy just came out of nowhere and just starts mashing people, which is awesome.
Yeah, he beat Hipple this weekend. Week ago he beat Davis, and then he also beat the Warren Central guy. That's pretty tough. So definitely having a good year. But I mean, 195. I mean, Jarius Perry, he looked huge at the Al Smith. Him and I was just like, geez, he looks like. I mean, he easily looked like he is 20 pounds heavier than Fowler was. So that was a pretty good weight at the Al Smith. I mean, it was one that I think the seating was pretty close to correct, but it didn't work out. It's one of those weights that, I mean, I think the seating was right. It just, I mean, when they wrestled the matches, that's why you wrestle them. So
and kind of the same thing, like I said earlier. And Nick Fowler's the same way. He's a kid that, and I know the kid personally, so it's kind of hard for me to talk to this. He's a very kid that once he gets that confidence, I think that he's gonna do very well. Once he believes he can do it, there's not another athlete in that weight that's man, he might be strongest kid, the fastest kid, you know. This kid's an all-state linebacker. He's just an athlete, and when he believes he can do it, is his biggest thing. So I think once he believes that thing, it's gonna be tough to beat that guy.
Yeah, there's a good article in the Northwest Times also about him. So
yeah,
check that out.
Today also.
Yeah, so he's definitely one that I mean, like you said, he has confidence, and I mean, he's looking at being a semi-state champ, which that'll help him out. I mean,
and even to that weight at Maryville semi-state is ridiculous. Because you got Big B, who was a runner-up, Tanner Bradley, who we lost to last year at semi-state, who's another great athlete. Perry, Hedrick are both in that same regional with him. Wes Beck, who's huge. Justin Akers is also in that semi-state. The semi-state at Maryville is pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on, 120.
The draw is going to be everything there on that one, for sure. Jarius Perry last night and Justin Akers 6-3, but that was a close game. Akers came out and scored first. Jarius Perry looks like a 220. Justin Akers looks like a 182. I think Akers a little small for the weight. I think Perry is a monster, like you said.
Yeah, definitely a weight that's going to be. And it looks like all those guys, just from seeing a few of them and knowing a few of them, especially the Maryville semi-state, it's going to be on how they match. It's not exactly who's going to be the better wrestlers, just who you draw that tick around and how you match up well with them. I mean, some of them, you might match up better with a Big B or or Perry, or a Hendrick, guys like that. So it's going to be, a style matchups is going to play a big role on who makes it out of that semi-state.
Definitely.
Moving to 220, Kobe Woods versus Kusavor Morrow at twice last week at the Al Smith and at Team State. Saw the Al Smith one, and Morrow took Kobe down twice with just a sick goal pick. It's quick. I mean, it was pretty nice. I mean, they were thunderous takedowns. Kobe played it smart. He's a smart wrestler. Probably one that, he was able to adjust right mid-match. As soon as Morrow would, get a collar tie, he was right on that hand. You're not going to ankle pick me. And towards the end, he kind of and Morrow wasn't really out of shape, but he kind of just kept plugging away, and Kobe ended up coming away with kind of a a couple 2-point wins. So I mean, it was 9-7, good match. I mean, just as good as 182. Those guys both got after it. They were trading takedowns. Definitely, you don't see that a lot of times with the bigger guys, but Alicio, he hasn't wrestled for a few weeks. I think he should be coming back pretty soon. Past that, there's just, I mean, the weight's kind of a crapshoot after that. I'll let you guys comment past the top 2 or 3.
Kobe and Mara, like you said, was a really good match. Those ankle picks were sweet. Kobe does this really weird thing where he like lets you grab his head so that he can like duck under it. It's really weird, but he seems to be able to do it to everyone. He like almost ducks his head down so that you can come over the top of it, and then he just hits this quick duck under. I know he scored like that on Moro, but I've never really seen it done before. He does it to everyone. It's really tough. I'm looking forward to those top 3 because they all look like they've got close results, and yeah, I think those top 3 are kind of separated from the rest.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Moro was a little underrated. I know he had lost to the Zionsville kid, Matt Pinella, who we had ranked, but he's injured now. He's out for the season, which it's always sad to see a kid go out. I think he's young though, like a junior. But I mean, then you got some guys that are Corey Clem's undefeated, been pinning a lot of guys. Evan Ellis, I'm sure, still undefeated. You don't see a lot of Eastern Greentown results, but that dude's really good. I like him. Larson's always tough. Morgan Crawl's still undefeated. Morgan Crawl's going to give guys trouble because he's so tall. And you just don't get a good feel. There's not like a lot of guys that are going to be 6'5", 220 that are going to give you a look in the room. So I think he's deceptively strong. I think he's got good hips. I think Morgan Crawl's a good guy in there. But tons of guys, tons of good people. Scroggs is good. Kasha Wilder's good. Other than that,
yeah, I want to see the Morgan Crawl versus Alicio Guerra match. 6'5" versus 5'5".
Yeah,
that'd be a very interesting matchup.
I like
Guerra.
I like Guerra. The match with Kobe was, which I'm so thankful that someone posted that because I don't get to see Elkhart Central so much, and to see like this dude going, he's just got this motor and he's just banging, and I was really happy that someone posted that. It's sad that he's been a little bit banged up. He's had to miss some time, but man, he's really tough. I like that guy.
Yeah, definitely. He's one that he got on fire late last season, and I think he's still riding that. He's definitely one, like we said, more than once. Got hot, got confidence, and just started beating people that he'd never beaten before. That beaten him 3 or 4 times, whether it's that year, last couple of years. So he's the only one that, he lost a 1-point match to Woods, and that's pretty close. Woods is pretty tough, and you have Morrow there who's tough as nails, and pretty good weight bottom. Lastly, since we started at the bottom this time, we have we have heavyweight Streck and Oglesby. Treywick avenged his loss to the Greensburg. Is it Greensburg or Green Cat?
Yeah.
One of the Greens. Hayes, he avenged that loss. Lost him 9-7, pinned him last week at Connorsville. Connorsville had a pretty good weight. Had Treywick, Hayes, Ian Suttles, and Drew Hovick, who I don't see that is ranked right now, but he's been in and out of the rankings. So really good big guy weight. And I'll let you guys go on from there. Pretty good weight. You have top 3 guys are pretty well separated, but after that, a lot of solid wrestlers.
Yeah, we jumped the gun a little bit on Quinn York going down to 220. They said no, he's going to be at 285. So I was excited to see him at 220 because he's a big 285. But it is what it is. It's great for the team. A lot of these guys, Bryce Biddle took one from Fuqua at Mooresville. In 285, you got a lot of good guys. Brogan was in the finals with Streck. Streck's a beast. I'm really excited to see that Oglesby Streck. I hope that's a finals match. I hope that they're on opposite sides because I think that's like the real finals. And it's luck of the draw, but man, that's what you really want to see.
Streck is a
Yeah,
freak. I watched him. He had a ball and chain on this kid at the Al Smith and just lifted him by his wrist through the crotch right over the top of the dude's head, right to his back. It was ridiculous. With one hand, just lifted a dude right over his own head. Streck is a beast. That's a whole lot of purple up there at the top. That's going to be two huge dudes in purple for the finals. That's going to be a fun match. But I don't know. Streck is definitely far and away the best up here that I've seen. He's a freak.
yes. Mama Streck likes the Purple Hulk reference that Hollenball put in the preview for Al Smith. I mean, pretty good weight, top to bottom. Even, I mean, Jason Brogan had a pretty good day at pretty good weekend. He's wrestled a lot of top guys. I mean, past being pinned by Streck, he's beaten a lot of those top guys. And then, I mean, just a lot of guys are trading losses. Some guys that, I mean, can make some runs later in the season. Talk about a little bit team state. Any big surprises, team or individual that you saw, Mike?
I mean, seeing Quinn York down, I think for the team is awesome. I like the team aspect. I think that a lot of the individual stuff worked out pretty good. I don't feel like I was really shocked. There wasn't like a match where I was like, man, that's crazy. Mamalenti and Tanti, I thought they did a really good job, and I know that Troy Delaney just posted a thing thanking everybody, and man, it was long overdue because it's such a good thing. I think a lot of times people focus on the negative of what, who's not there or what's going on, and I really enjoyed the post because I think that those guys do a really good job. I really enjoyed, Dane getting in there and doing the team rankings. Man, that's like, it just shows like how much they want to work with us, and I think that's great. And Dane does a great job. So, like, if you see him, tell him thanks. He's a super nice guy. I'm sure he's always open to talk wrestling, and I was just really happy for that. I was modern day Perry. I mean, that's how you want it, right? I'm always sad the region not represent it. But that's a whole other thing. I don't know. Porters might have been in the mix, but the two teams that were invited, I don't know if they had the lineups to go with a modern day who's really good top to bottom, or Perry Meridian who just, man, how good is that program? I know we had Tanti on here when I was in Florida, and I got to watch that. How great of a program is it? You just have guys that can step in and beat state-ranked guys. Guys that have medals, you're walking in. They have a kid, Davey Clayton. He pinned Colton Cummings at 120. He came and make the lineup over there. Man, Jim Tante's awesome. I love Perry Meridian's team. I love that they went with Modern Day. It was just a really good thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't get to see very much other than our matches, which because we decided that we wanted to wrestle for a full hour and 59 minutes every match, but the Perry and Penn match it was tied. Came down to most tech balls. So I mean and Perry and Penn, I hate to do it, but I mean Penn, just put in a few backups and guys, they're banged up, they've wrestled, things like that, and they're still right there with Perry.
I thought your name was Y2CJ on the board. It wasn't M109R.
I don't want to do the ifs and buts, but I mean it is. I mean, you have a state qualifier at 120 that's out that could definitely maybe hold off a pin or something. Things like that.
A 195 where you're not bumping. You don't have to bump Mamalenti up to wrestle Tanti. You can have Chase Osborne Tanti if they got Traber in there. One other kid was out too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Cameron Beam. Cameron Beam hasn't been in all year, but
yeah.
not to say that Jordan Napier's on fire, but maybe not.
Yeah, that tells you how good even Penn's program is. They're one match from the finals with 3 JV guys, quote unquote JV guys in their lineup. So that was good. Warren Central's pretty tough, top to bottom. I mean, we were talking about it this week. You line up Warren Central's guys against the other guy, any other team, and you're like, well, Warren Central's. I mean, those guys are just beasts. I mean, we were joking that they probably spend about 75% of their practice in in the weight room. I mean, those guys are huge. They stay in good position. So good wrestlers and definitely guys that if I mean they're gonna make a good run. I mean, I think they're fairly young from what I saw. So they're gonna be back next year. Teams like that kind of I saw that stood out to me. Even Avon was a tough team. We saw them. They're tough top to bottom. I'm not sure they have a good sprinkling of young and old guys in their lineup too. So 2A Yorktown just ran through everybody as expected. I mean, the big question is, how would they do against, the 3A teams? And I mean, I don't know if they're top four, but they can wrestle with any of those 5 through 8 teams.
Oh yeah. How awesome is that though? You're in Muncie at Ball State. You got Yorktown Belmont. I mean, I'm not a Fort Wayne guy, but man, you know there's some history there, and I'm sure that's great. That's just a great atmosphere. And once again, 1A blowing the doors off. I thought that was Belmont, Yorktown getting crazy. I had a flip over Mats. It's Prairie Heights, Adams Central getting nuts. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. 1 and 2A off Fort Wayne finals. Just so you know, you got.
And they say you guys have the worst semi-state. How does this happen?
It's because it's 1 and 2A. That's why. But yeah, 1A came down to the last match. I mean, Prairie Heights and Adams Central. So definitely won those. I mean, all those. I went to the first one. I didn't get to see the last matches, but I mean the 1A. Those teams take it serious, and they won it. I mean they realize that. I mean they're not going to compete in dual settings against teams that are 1,000, 2,000 students, but against each other. Those guys get after it. They're well coached. And the kids that the best thing about that is, and something I kind of miss a little bit about coaching at a smaller school, is the bumping around our lineup. At Carroll, there's really no weak links in our lineup. We can't bump guys around. We did a little bit we did one thing that we can do against Warren Central, and we switched our 32 and 38s, which it ended up being a wash, which was kind of what we hoped. But it's one of those things that bumping around your lineup strategy like that, it's one of those things that are, makes coaching fun sometimes when you can, if we bump this guy, put this guy in and bump, 2 guys up, we might be able to come out, 3 points ahead, and that could be the duel. So things like that, definitely 1 and 2A, they do that stuff a lot, and it adds for added excitement, especially the coin flip and things like that. So congrats to all those teams and all the wrestlers. It was a great event. Definitely would like a location where people probably a little bit more central, but even a location that we can watch all the matches right next to us. I know we were in with 3A, and it was pretty fun because you'd hear a big roar out of some crowd, and you can't help but look up and what just happened? Who's wrestling? What crowd was that? Perry? Was that Mater Dei? Was it Penn's crowd going nuts? Things like that. So definitely a cool day. It's cool to be have that many mats and hear all the fans going crazy.
I love it. I think it's one of the coolest things right now.
Yeah, we'll have a show later on on some suggestions and stuff. I know I talked to Pendowski and Tante. They want to come back. They like being on it. They like to get in the FaceTime. They like being movie stars, I guess. So and they have a lot of great ideas, and
those guys were awesome though. I thought that was a good show.
Yeah,
I was a little jealous I didn't get to be on. I was in Florida enjoying Mickey Mouse, but I got to watch it on the replay, and I thought it was really good. I thought those guys were awesome.
Yeah. Any things you saw this past couple weeks, Eric, that jumped out at you?
Not too much, man. Just saw Maryville Crown Point last night. Like Mike said, I don't know that either one of those teams could have gone with those top teams at Team State. They both have too many holes. Portage is definitely the most complete team. They've got 2 really good guys, Gage and Bam, but the rest of those guys, man, they'll have 13, 14 at semi-state. They really don't have any holes. I do think that they would have competed. I don't know that they would have been 1-2, but You know, they beat Penn earlier in the year at the Harvest. Penn smashed the Al Smith in front of Warren Central. You know, so I definitely think they're Portage is top 4. Hopefully they get an invite next year. I know there was a post going back and forth, good points on both sides about why they were left off and why they should have been there. You know, that guy maligned, I think he gets it right. You know, like he said, they're not going to get everything perfect. Portage is a situation where, you know, they've had some freshmen have some success and have some JV guys have some success. You can't really predict for that. Plus, you know, they had a bad semi-state last year that kind of hurt them. So, you know, overall, I think they got it right. And like Troy Delaney said, I think that was a great event, great tournament. I haven't got to go down to it yet, but, you know, you guys keep talking about it, going to get me down there one year. But other than that, you know, like I said before, would like to see some of these top tournaments use IndianaMat, use Mike as a reference, and help us seed your, you know, your tournament. There's no reason at the Al Smith that 32 coaches should get in a room and scream and yell at each other for 5 hours and still get it wrong. You know, they could give that information over to you guys and get it right in half the time with no hard feelings and no arguments. So I mean, I know coaches don't want to give up control on some of that stuff, but it would be nice to see, you know, some of these top tournaments, you know, use you guys as a consulting service almost for seeding. And I don't think that, you know, that's out of the question. I know some tournaments have already done it and they've been reaping the rewards. So good job to Dane and to Mike. You guys are awesome, and you know, love what you guys are doing. Excited to have some more time to contribute a little more to the site. So looking forward to that over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So that's it.
Yeah, I think a little bit on your Portage. We'll go on that little rant a little bit, but they were in the voting, and you know that you look at, you know, I was talking to a couple couple coaches that weren't in the top 8, I'll say that much, for 3A, and you know, they're like, you know, last April, when, you know, March, April, when they did the voting and stuff, I was confident about he's like, I felt pretty good about my team, and you know, I thought we would be, you know, a little bit better, and you know, you can't predict the future. I mean, they were right in that voting. They were probably the second highest vote, you know, total. So it wasn't like they were totally left off. I mean, it came down to, you know, Westfield and I believe I can't remember the last team that New Palestine, I think it was New Pal that they said that was in the voting. So I mean, and both teams returned, you know, a lot of good. All those teams returned a lot of good kids. New Pal lost a kid that was a, you know, highly, you know, top 10 ranked guy in the beginning of the season. He didn't come out in Brickens, so that, I mean, you can't predict that. I mean, you can't predict things like that, kids getting hurt. So it's one of those things that comes with the territory, especially what we're dealt with. You know, we got to try to predict the future, and if anyone knows how to do it better, please inform us, because I haven't seen any psychic hotline numbers on the TV lately. So, any last words of wisdom, Mike? Any pleas for information on some kids?
Everybody, man, and I always say this. I always try to return every email, and I was a little later this time. I did the Disney thing. It was great. I had a great time. But I try to return everyone's emails. If I didn't get to yours, I'm sorry. But I think I did. I think I returned every personal message. Just got swamped with info, which I love, which helped the rankings get better. I like that. You know, the only thing you ever really get complaints about. I don't get complaints 1 through like 14 or 1 through 13. I get complaints like 13 through 16, and that makes me feel like I'm doing a good job. You know, so. Everyone's always so nice. Like, I think you forget that you live in Indiana because we live by Chicago and everyone's so mean all the time. But, like, everyone down south is always so nice, so polite. I love it. I appreciate everyone that sent me information, everyone that, you know, told me great job on the vacation. Have fun. Thank you so much. I hope everyone had a happy holiday.
If I agree, we'll probably be back coming next week. Just kind of keeping things rolling. State tournaments. We got a lot more individual tournaments coming up, and starting the rankings are shaking out, especially after the holidays, as we had a lot of question marks. And lots of weights. How good are these kids, and getting them in tournament settings helps. Kind of, it's more tournaments after the holidays. A lot more tournaments, so it's a lot easier to gauge where kids are. So definitely excited to see what the next few weeks show. Lots of good results coming in, and so keep reporting your results and keep sending them to our rankings gurus. So thank you guys, and we will see you guys next week sometime.